Hey, listeners. I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you ever have a feeling where you're just going nowhere in life? My question to you is, what would happen if you changed the trajectory of your life? Imagine what your life would be like if you started knocking down your goals, you gained more confidence, and you understood your gifts and how to use them. Listen, how you feel right now, you're not alone. Millions of people feel like this, but you don't have to stay stuck in these feelings. This is where Versatile Success's signature program, Lost and Found, will help you. The Lost and Found program is a 30-day online program that'll change the trajectory of your life. Don't just take my word for it. Joaquin says, I've always struggled with trying to figure out who I am, what my strengths are, and what my weaknesses are. This program helped me unlock my superpowers, and by knowing that, gave me confidence in things I wanted to achieve in myself. So again, I ask you, what would happen if you changed the trajectory of your life? Find out by clicking the link on our Facebook page and enroll today. Oh, and make sure you enter the coupon code LostandFound-Infiltrate to receive $200 off the program just because you're a listener of our podcast.
This episode of Infiltrate Radio Podcast is brought to you by our amazing sponsors. Podbean is an easy and powerful way to start a podcast. Everything you need for a successful podcast. No difficult technology to learn. For our listeners only, go to podbean.com/infiltrate radio and get your first month of podcast hosting absolutely free. Again, that link is podbean.com/infiltrate radio. The show is also brought to you by Akioka Pet Boutique. Use the link posted on our Facebook page with the link to the show and use code InfiltrateRadio25 at checkout, and you save 25% on any purchase from Akioka Pet Boutique. All your pet supplies, toys, etc. So again, go to the link on our Facebook page, click on it, and use code InfiltrateRadio25 at checkout and save 25% on absolutely any purchase. In addition, we'll post the links to any products we talk about during the show, such as the drinks we're enjoying or any other items we mentioned. So if you really want to help us out and support the show and keep us going, click on any of those links we post, and the show gets a portion of the purchases that you make. So you get drinks, you get products, you help to keep the show going, and we get to not be living out on the street. So again, just click on any of the links in on any of our posts that typically go to Amazon or other affiliates. So thank you guys for all your support, and here's another episode. Infiltrate Radio. All right, so again, you guys are listening to Infiltrate Radio, episode number 56, and I am Patrick Joanne.
And I'm Biz LaChance.
And on the show today, we've got Melodie Roehrig. Did I get it? I got
it. Yes. Yep. Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Melodie.
Absolutely. Excited to be here.
So as with all month, we're kind of celebrating. I mean, we always have female guests on the show too, but this month we're going all women this month for Women's Awareness Month. And last week on the show we had Kate Weston for, it was like an International Women's Day. So she happened to release a really cool song. I don't know if you know Kate at all. You've heard of Kate Weston at all, Melodie? She's good. She's from Rochester initially. And then moved out to LA and had a bunch of success in the music business and stuff. And she just released a cool song that was like, she didn't realize that it was International Women's Day, but just happened to release it around this time, titled what? Oh, no, I don't remember the title.
Come on, Patrick. You can't. I'm going to put you on blast. You better remember it right now.
What it's like to be, no, this is what it is to be a woman. Shit. I forget it. She's going to kill me.
Something empowering.
Yes, if Biz, you can look up the actual title so people can look it up. But great song that she came out with. And I appreciate you being on the show. We've never met personally, Melodie, right?
No, I don't think so.
But we're Facebook friends, so I
feel like I know you anyway.
Yep. I know you as the meme queen of Facebook, because you you have fantastic memes that I enjoy from time to time. So we're gonna get the show started here, and one of the first things that we do typically on the show is talk about the drinks that we are a drinking. So Melodie, you got something there, and we usually let the guests talk about what they've got first.
Perfect. Okay, I have my Tijuana iced tea. It is pineapple berry blue herbal tea.
Delicious. Wait, is it carbonated or no?
No, not really.
No? Is it? Have you
Probably
had that before?
Incorporation.
Is that your like go-to Tivana?
Yes, this is my go-to for sure.
All right. So we talked a little bit before we actually started the show that I was gonna bring another Tivana product that I found in the grocery store the other day, but luckily I didn't, and I went with something different. And I'm gonna do a live taste test of this thing that I don't know is gonna be either good or is going to make me sick on air here. But Biz, why don't you talk about what you got first? I
So
saw
first we'll sidebar and just mention it's To Be a Woman by Kate Weston.
To Be a Woman. That's the name of it. I'm sorry, Kate, if she's listening or anyone sees her. Don't tell her my discretions or my indiscretions.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So today's episode is brought to you by Duff.
Amazing.
Is it
Can't
is
get
that
enough of that sweet Duff.
non-alcoholic Duff beer?
It's no, of course it's not beer, man. Come on. It's Duff energy drink is what it is. It describes it as wonderful orange, which makes me awfully suspicious. But we're gonna crack it.
Ah.
All you
I love
ASMR
those.
people.
I love those. You know what I've always wanted to do, Melody, because you're in film and stuff. I've always wanted to be the guy that makes the sounds. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh my God,
The,
yes.
the the person that like makes the sounds that that makes the cracking open or pouring the soda or the beer into the glass, those sort of sounds.
Yes.
I always thought that would be fun. So how is it, Biz? Is it disgusting?
Absolutely not. It is so amazing. I just actually paused
Is
you
it?
guys real quick to shout out the Instagram people real fast and tell them how
Ah.
amazing it is. They need to definitely check it out. This will
Let me see it.
definitely be linked to
Can you
the Amazon page here.
can you put it up a little bit
Yeah.
closer? So is it for like The Simpsons? Because that's Duff Beer is Simpsons, right?
Of course, it's got Simpsons logos and such on it.
Does
You
it?
know how they are. Yeah,
So it's like
they
a play
definitely
off.
making full. Oh yeah, definitely. It's an energy drink, I guess, is what they're selling it
Do
as.
you think they couldn't go beer because they felt as though they were then targeting children because they were a cartoon?
No, it's probably more that they felt like people wouldn't actually buy it, and the fact that like it is more of like a kids thing. I mean, I got this at a
Are you
store locally. You know what I mean? I didn't buy it off Amazon or anything
I would
crazy.
I would buy Duff beer all day long. All day long. I would dress like Homer
You think
Simpson.
so?
Yeah, I
Why?
would just for the sake of doing it. Why would you
Oh,
not do that, Biz?
I mean,
Uh,
he's cool and all, but I mean, like, he's definitely not like dressed like that. I mean, he's dressed kind of foolish. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna
what do
be
you
honest with you, from the
what are you
perspective
trying to
of
say,
losing my
Biz?
hair, that's way. I mean, you don't even know what that's like, bro. Like,
Right.
don't even get me started. So anyway, our guest is here.
Yeah. So I like your Hollywood sign, by the way, Biz, too. That's a new piece of prop that you got up.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
And
new. It's pretty sick.
it's on top of this little. I got this at Goodwill. It was like $2.
Is
Nice.
it just
Yeah.
the sign on top, or that's a whole like
No,
unit?
no, just a sign. I made this. This is a sound box. I got foam in here inside the
Oh,
mic
you
to
got
make
your
me sound.
microphone in there. All right.
Yeah,
Good
yeah. And it
call.
makes for a good prop stand for this
Yep, yep.
Hollywood sign.
I
I'm
like
also
it.
wearing an Alice in Wonderland shirt.
Do you find the listeners, anyone listening, does his microphone sound less echoey? I guess is the ask.
Shoot us an
Um,
email and let us know at infiltrateradiopodcast
oh,
at gmail.com.
look at you, Biz. So I've got this weird ass shit right here, and hopefully it's in
Whoa.
focus.
Elderberry, honey, and tonic.
Oh, you could read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elderberry, honey, and tonic infused with 12 herbs, roots, and spices. So it's got turmeric, which is, I kind of drink a lot of turmeric. I have this like orange stuff I add to my water Melody.
I do feel
Supposed
like
to
you bring turmeric up
reduce.
like every episode.
I
Yes.
do take turmeric every day.
Do
I
you?
haven't done it in drinks. I do it in like pill form.
Yeah, usually like there's this orange stuff. It kind of tastes good. It's like I guess it's orangey flavored, like citrus sort of flavored. But this just so happened I didn't know that it had it in there. But then cloves, ginger, and echinacea. So let's see. This might just taste like
Ooh.
freaking medicine. But ooh,
That's exactly what it's gonna taste like.
kinda-
We all
yeah.
know.
Elderberry is usually
it kind
good.
of it kind of looks like syrupy too.
Oh God.
ASMR.
I don't know if I like it. I think
Don't
that,
leave
like,
us hanging. What's it like?
well, the elderberry is good. Like you get this sweetness, like there's a berry in there, but then all that other stuff kind of comes into it, and it's like creating a weird party, like a party that like you showed up to, and like
You weren't invited to?
yeah, and like
So there's a
And
weird
you're
party in your mouth right now.
and you're not sure whether or not you're glad to be at the party, even though it's like very exclusive. because there's turmeric and elderberry and echinacea in it.
You have some secret agreement with like the turmeric underlords or something that you have to mention at every episode,
It's
don't
big
you?
turmeric. Big turmeric's got its hold on me. Melly, and I have to say, your video looks excellent. Is that just a webcam, or you got?
Oh, thanks. I got a new laptop a few months ago. It's just through my laptop.
Huh. All right.
What kind did you get?
Just a Lenovo.
Okay. I got a new
It's like
laptop
nice having
recently
and
as
stuff,
well.
but
Yeah. See. Biz is rocking his new MacBook there. So.
I know. I was like, wow, subtle brag.
Yeah. Not too subtle. He's got it right.
I have the
right
I
up
have the
front.
light literally like shining on it purposely
Right.
to be like a yeah.
I don't think Macs used to be super exclusive. I don't think they're that exclusive anymore.
I don't think that they're exclusive or not exclusive. I think that they're
just
pricey.
expensive.
I would say they're pricey, and a lot of people don't see value in them. But I mean, me personally,
I think
same reason I got an iPhone.
Yeah, that's true.
I do have an iPhone though.
Yeah, like for entertainment stuff, like music production and video production, all that kind of thing. I feel like Macs really are the thing that stands out. Although
It's kind of good. It's a good thing to get started with too. Like editing software is expensive, especially in film. You know what I mean? It's like some of them are like upwards of like $600 like annually. So yeah, it's nice to.
I moved to a Mac a long time ago, so I don't know. Maybe PCs have caught up and they're much better.
They haven't.
But I hate Windows with a passion. So Melody, we're gonna start by asking you the question. Well, let's do this first. So any of the drinks will post links on the Facebook post when we go ahead and launch the recorded episode and the YouTube. Please subscribe. Download, tell your friends about us, email us, comment, like on the stuff, hit the like button down below if this is on YouTube or if it's a podcast. Just scream out the name of the podcast in whatever room you're standing in, even if it's in I don't know, church or
hopefully they're on like a bus,
grocery
moving
store, on a bus.
Catch the people going by and the people in their proximity with their phones.
Scream it and yell at people to subscribe to it and download the episodes, and click on any of the links to the drinks and that sort of stuff. And if you buy them through Amazon, we get a little bit of pocket change, and I no longer have to eat garbage out of the local delis.
Why do you always resort to eating garbage for this part of the ad segment? Sweet love of God.
I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a new, so I don't have to wear used socks anymore. Recycled socks from my local.
How about because incentives were always great? That's why. That's why we'd like you to donate to our show and buy some of these.
So
stuff.
please do that. And Melody, the question I think that I want to ask right now is, what project? I know you've got some stuff coming up, but there's something specific that you're working on both now and something that has come out recently that I saw a post on that people will really be into. So what do you got going on?
Well,
so before you answer that, we played that pretty good. We're both actors, right? So, but if you want to hear what it is, then you have to listen on the podcast app and on the recorded version. So we're going to stop the live stream here. Go to YouTube, subscribe now, and then by tomorrow or the next day, you'll be able to download the episode and hear the answer to Melody's the question I just asked Melody here in just a second. So I'm going to stop the live feed here, Melody, before you answer that. Okay.
We're clear. You can answer.
And
I think we're good. Yeah, so what do you got going on?
Okay. Where do we start? I guess I could start with what came out, because that was like a two-parter. There was like something came out, more going on. So I guess the most recent project that just came out for me is a mini series on Amazon Prime called Diary of a Lunatic. And that is a 6-episode mini series. I don't know how to put this in a genre because it's a bit of everything. It's kind of fantasy.
Out there.
It's out there. It's like sci-fi, there's comedy, it's like a good family thing. There's a ton of action sequences, so it kind of fits the bill on everything. But yeah, so that just got released on the 5th of this month.
That's really cool. Is it one of your first things on Amazon?
Is Fang on Amazon?
What was that?
Is Fang on Amazon?
Yeah, so Fang and stuff like that. Like I have some stuff that's on Amazon, but not something that's really through Amazon Prime, where like it's free through Amazon Prime. So that's the first kind of big thing that's labeled as like an Amazon Prime show.
And I know you're multi-talented, so you're a part director, an actress, and amongst other things, right? So this is something you acted in, or this is something you directed, or what was the?
Yeah. So this one was just acting in. It was one of the kind of main like core characters. So I was in every episode. And that was really fun to shoot. I think we shot that in the summer of 2019. Yeah, because it was before
right.
the pandemic.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Time's a construct. I don't know anymore. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then they kind of just announced right before it came out, they were like, so we got buses across America. And I was like, oh my God, my face is going to be on these buses. So if you're out anywhere, you might see the poster for Diary of a Lunatic on the back of a bus.
Oh, no shit. All right, awesome. So what's the premise of the show? Can you give us like a little bit of a synopsis of what?
I watched the pilot. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch the pilot because I knew I'd recognize like everybody. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
Patrick, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you have Amazon Prime, you need to at least go watch the pilot.
No, I'm gonna watch and I just finished watching some series so I'm done with that. So I'll watch.
I would say, dude, I'm telling you, it's binging is taking it lightly, man. But please, Melodie, explain to me from an insider's perspective, because again, I've only seen the pilot as a local person.
2, man. Episode 2 is where I come in heavy.
As a local working in the industry and seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, I mentioned this to another guest that like the crew, they looked so next level official that I was like, man, I'm envious. I wish I could get up in this crew. Like I need to be a part of this crew, but I missed it. I missed the opportunity. So like, it is what it is.
I know. I thought you might be there. I'm sad you weren't.
Yeah. So what is it about? Give me a little.
So quick shout out though. Yes, you were absolutely right. The crew was phenomenal, like next level, amazing. It was very professional. They obviously put a lot of time, effort, and money into it. So that was an awesome experience. How to explain the premise of this is very difficult.
There's like a book.
So it's kind of about these diary keepers. How do I explain this without giving away? So it starts with like these 2 main women, and they're diary keepers for God. So like God appears to them and tells them stuff, and they write it down. And it kind of the whole thing revolves around people in this apartment building. So everyone in this apartment building you kind of like meet, and they have a different piece to this story. Some of them are supernatural in different ways. And pretty much early on you find out that there is like a portal between worlds in one of the apartments in the building. And there's like a big battle going on. There's, Queen Silky, like the queen of all worlds, and there's assassins, there's bad guys. It's like a whole epic thing. There's so many like side plots and stories. It's very hard to figure out what like how to condense that.
According to IMDb, it says boundaries between parallel universes are collapsing. Alter egos are slipping through the crumbling gateway. A ragtag group of misfits accept the mission of saving billions of inhabitants, armed only with the Diary of a Lunatic.
Perfect. Thank you. That is so much better than what I've said. Yeah, so I'm one of those misfits. And yeah, you kind of pop in. You see me a little bit at the end of episode 1, but you don't really meet my character until episode 2.
So we don't get the full Melodie experience until episode 2.
Yeah, you just get a little peek and you're like, wait, is that Melodie in some pajamas? You're like, yes, that is.
Is that how you get? I think it's a great way to get people to move on to the second episode too, because sometimes it takes a little while to set up the plot. So people like watch the first episode and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to continue or whatever. It's a good way of doing it. I like that.
Yeah, now, honestly, they definitely have those little like credit scenes.
Gotcha. One thing that did kind of like tie me in, I guess you could say, to the pilot was that I could tell that they were creating like a universe that they want you to live in, that they're setting the standard for certain normals and certain things like that. And as I mentioned before on the show, I'm a big fan of like Quentin Tarantino and like Rockstar, because they always in their video games make like these immersive worlds that connect and that have like 6-7 things all tied together. And this actually leads me to a good question. I noticed that your name in Diary of a Lunatic is Grace. Is that any reference to like Grace is Gone and like those films?
It's actually funny that I was Grace again. Um, no, so I mean that was her name. It was Grace Cloudover when I came into it, and auditioned for it. So there was no connection, but I was like, oh man, wonder how many Graces I'm going to be in my career.
Right. Well, not only that, but it's going to create some of that. Oh, these films are connected. You know why? Because this person, and it's possible that she got married and then decided to take this farmer's name. People get crazy with these fan theories about things like that. And I mean, it's all part of the local scene. So I
Well,
would be
We got into
surprised.
farmers and everything. Wow, this
well,
escalated quickly.
what's the other girl's name in it? The other girl that keeps the diary. Can you really say that?
So, um, I'm trying to think if my character, I can't tell you who my character is, but I don't know if she's necessarily considered a diary keeper. So, there's two like main women, Maha and True. And they are the two like main diary keepers. Um, and one of them, True, was in a movie before called True's Calling. That's kind of wrapped into the Diary of a Lunatic
I got you.
franchise, the kind of umbrella that they put everything under.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a great movie called True's Calling. They had also done a series, Dream Factory. This is all like Greg Robbins has done these, and he kind of has it all in the same world and some of the same characters. So that's why he bridged off and then kind of had this starring around its character Maha, and brought True in, and then some of the other people in the apartment building kind of become part of this little, misfit group as they call it. And yeah, then we kind of have to go battle the forces of evil and deal
Well,
with the boundaries collapsing between universes.
the reason I asked that is, I guess, because Grace is, it's a religious kind of connotation
Yes.
to it too. So I was wondering if the other characters in there were based on some sort of like religious, not based on a religious thing, but referencing some sort of religious,
I wouldn't be surprised if that is. I wasn't told directly that it was a specific religious reference, but I wouldn't be surprised because obviously there are the. It doesn't specifically have anything like, oh, this is Christianity or whatever, but there is like a God character throughout. And like a fun tidbit is like each episode, God is played by someone different. So you never know who he's going to show up
I,
as.
I was gonna say when I was watching the pilot and I watched or I was going through like the IMDb page, I saw that like there was like 6 or 7 different characters that played that character. So I had the feeling that was probably the case, that no two people played him the same, for the mere sake that everyone interprets it differently.
Right, where God isn't actually showing up as God is. God shows up as, takes on a form. So yeah, they have him, God change sex, change race, age, all of that.
How did you get onto that particular film? Was it like you worked with something else and then got into the mix that way, or I know you said you
It's been so
auditioned?
long ago, but I don't think that it was really that I had a connection with anyone at this point. I hadn't worked with Greg before. I think I just saw the casting for it and I submitted a self tape, and then I, got a call and was asked to do a call with Greg specifically and read the scenes again. And then I was offered the part and I was like, this is fantastic.
Nice.
So I definitely got to meet a lot of new people, new actors, and new people, crew people who were in Buffalo that I hadn't yet gotten to work with. So that's always awesome to meet new people and then also get onto set and find all of your old friends and stuff from other sets are there. And the mix was pretty great.
Do you find like the Buffalo film scene versus like out here in Rochester, you feel like they're a different I don't know, scene, I guess you can call it. Like, is
Um,
it a different feel to when you're on set on something here versus there, or is it pretty similar?
I think it depends on the project a lot. While I feel like there's obviously more work in Buffalo, they're really bringing it to Rochester a lot more lately. Um, and I mean, there is like a lot of known crew members out in Buffalo, but I mean, they travel a lot too. So there are definitely amazing, amazing people in Rochester. And a lot of times you just don't know where they live. You're like, I don't know if you're from Rochester or Buffalo or whatever, because they just go to where the work is, or they go out to Syracuse or wherever they need to go.
Why do you think that Buffalo in particular is, because I've noticed that too, that a lot of the, because I'm part of that whole you know thing too, and I see castings and I see a lot of them out of Buffalo. Like, why is it Buffalo out of anywhere, you think? Is there just more film
Well,
resources there, or?
I think obviously for the state, the tax incentives are huge for, Hollywood films and everything else coming here. I think Buffalo has just kind of been known. It's the whole town, like the whole city, everyone I think is super inviting and super accommodating to films coming in. And it's gotten that reputation of people come and they're like, oh my God, the whole city being here, the crew, everything, we're so professional, so welcoming. And I think that reputation precedes Buffalo, and it kind of just brings more people in. However, I do think that it's been growing all across New York. Syracuse has been growing a lot, especially with like American High kind of coming in, and they're doing like all their films there. They bought a high school and stuff in
They're
Syracuse.
filming something literally right now.
Yeah, they are. And it seems like they're pretty much always filming something now, and a lot of big ones and Paramount and stuff are here. A lot of them go out to Syracuse as well. So,
yeah,
I think it's kind of growing.
What's really kind of cool about that too is that now with, I mean, I guess in the past you had to be in LA or in Hollywood to do a lot of what you're doing, and I think that was based upon the technology too. Like it was big and clunky and expensive to do some of the stuff that they do with movies, and now all that stuff is becoming more portable. And why stay somewhere and do that stuff where it's super expensive to do it when you could go somewhere like like Buffalo or Rochester, upstate New York, or even wherever to do some of that stuff and do it way cheaper and it's great for the film communities, like the local film communities too, because you're getting they're probably getting a deal on crews as well by doing it, hiring locals, and then obviously the film scene and the locals benefit from that too. So I think it's cool.
No, absolutely. I feel like, most of the crew around here, they're so professional. Most of them are part of the union at this point. So they're amazing. And yeah, I think a lot of the areas, especially Buffalo and stuff, has so many different elements to it. It has like the city, it has kind of the suburbs, like it has everything. And then you have Niagara Falls, all these places where you can really make Buffalo look like a different place, a different city, or you know what I mean? You can really get a big range of like landscapes and stuff like that. And I think that's definitely a big pull. I think it's pretty great that more hubs are kind of developing. So it's not all just New York and LA, because I think obviously it's harder to go out there and get started.
Yeah,
I think that for locally too, that the Buffalo is kind of like to people that grow up in New York and in New York City, Buffalo is kind of like ew Buffalo, like there's kind of like this vibe about it when you're local. But I've noticed that like looking through history, like I think like 3 or 4 presidents have been assassination attempts have happened in Buffalo, New York. A bunch of like major historical
things
if
that's a good
have happened in Buffalo.
Right.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it is, but I'm saying like Buffalo is obviously some sort of prominent city. If they've had 4 presidents come through it, Rochester's only had I think like 2 or 3 come through it. So like it's one of those things that I think Buffalo is, as a local, we look down upon. But I think Buffalo has a lot to offer. It's just that, like most cities, it's got a lot of like shit to clean up. So I don't know anything about the politics of Buffalo. I just know how it looks and the work environment. So
yeah, I don't either about that. But obviously as a kid, I was born in Rochester and I lived here till I was 10. And I don't know that I'd been to Buffalo. Like maybe I did, but it was really just you heard about Buffalo. And then once I moved to New Jersey, when people ask where I'm from, they pretty much only know Buffalo. Like if you try to say Rochester or something, people don't know where that is. So, if you say New York, they think New York City. So pretty much the biggest thing I had to say is where are you from is Buffalo. So it is well known.
Right.
I grew up in Queens. You like how I just dropped that in there, Biz, as I move on to the next thing?
I knew you were gonna. As soon as she said people from New York City, I was like, oh, here it goes. You just gave them an easy one in. Why don't we just mention your age while we're at it?
Yeah, little Easter eggs that I drop into every episode of stuff I repeat. I don't know if it's Easter eggs, but I don't know if it's a good thing that I do it or not.
Love that.
But what I kind of like about that, and what I've said in the past too, like I've spoken to a lot of people that grew up in Rochester and haven't left Rochester, haven't left upstate, right? And they have this, like every city you're in, even growing up in Queens, there are people that have lived there their whole lives that want to get out of the place that they're in, right? You're people that grew up in the biggest city in the world with some of the most opportunities out of any city, anywhere. When you grow up in a place or you don't you don't see the difference between your city, let's say, or where your environment is versus where everywhere else is. You tend to have this like jaded view of where you are. And I think that people have, and we talked about this with Kate too, like her dream of going out to LA and kind of making it out there. And then she ended up moving up to like Wisconsin and loves it in Wisconsin now. And
Yeah,
my,
she had terrible things to say about LA. I mean, some people
well,
Really,
trash
I have
LA,
heard
but
that from a
man.
lot of people.
yeah, LA is kind of, I mean, it's good in
No,
ways.
Mel, she had like a special kind of like, even me, someone that like is all for the sunny weather and all for the everything. I've heard so many horror stories about LA,
But
you know it. But
so
she
my,
I
said some
know.
things that I was like,
but
hmm.
my point about it is that there's always this idea of like, oh, I need to go to this place, this destination, where then I can finally do what I want to do, right? But and that's a metaphor for kind of life too. But like, you know, I'll wait till I retire before I'm happy or whatever. I'll wait till I'm you know, I have $1 million in the bank before I go pursue my dream of being an actress, let's say, right, or creating a film or making music or whatever. But like, I feel that all the biggest things that have occurred, so like Silicon Valley or even Hollywood or Las Vegas, right? Things that people went there, or were already there, and then created the scene there. They created the magical thing that it became, that Hollywood
They
scene.
created something to
Yes,
replicate.
Right, but I mean they made it right where kind of they
where they
were,
were.
you
You
know?
have to start from nothing and you have to create it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a it's a mistake to think that, you know, if you're, I don't know, a musician, you have to go to, I don't know, Nashville or LA or New York City
It's a
in
good
order
one.
to make an impact. I think that if you learn to look around you for opportunities, there are opportunities right where you are. So I'm glad to see that you're. I mean, you've got a what is it, 7-part series? You said
6.
6-part series on a streaming, you know, an international Amazon Prime is international, right?
Mhm.
International streaming service, which is fucking awesome. Your face is going to be on,
Super
you know,
cool.
sides of buses and stuff like
Thank
that.
you.
And you're in, you know, you're in upstate New York, and some people that you would talk to would probably say, "Oh, there's no opportunity here to, you know, to become an actress or to be a part of anything film wise or whatever." But you've taken an opposite, I guess, point of view on it, and decided that there are opportunities and found those opportunities. Um, so I guess because there's a question there of what made you decide that that was something that was possible for you to pursue it, if that makes sense.
So ironically, without getting too much to a backstory, I moved up here from New Jersey about 5 years ago, and I didn't plan to. A bunch of things kind of fell apart and fell into place where I found myself having to come back to, where I grew up. And I had been wanting to go to LA. I kind of had just I was going to be an accountant. And then I was like, why am I not going for my dream? I've been acting since I was a child and I want to do it. Why don't I go for my dream? I wanted to go to LA and it didn't work out at the time. And I came up here and I didn't know there was an acting scene. My uncle happens to be in the acting scene and he was like, hey, get on some of these groups and stuff. And that's kind of how I fell into the film scene up here and just doing the slow growth of, you know, networking and doing the small projects and stuff and getting your name out there and then moving into bigger stuff. Um, so that wasn't even intentional, but I think that it's amazing, um, right? What like opportunities you can find places. And the fact that I think places like this, like Buffalo, even though I'm in Rochester, and Rochester are both really working to grow. There are people out there who are like building sound stages that are, building studios, and just saying like, well, this can happen for us here and we can keep growing this and make this one of the big scenes. So I think that's pretty cool.
Were you always, like, did you act in theater and that sort of thing? Was that always kind of in your blood, so to speak, to
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, as early as I can remember, I was always putting on weird shows and like making my family sit for them and record them. And I remember even like when I was really little, like me and my siblings would get like the towels and stuff and act out, like the nativity. I'm like, I am a shepherd, and just doing ridiculous shit from as early as I can remember. And then, yeah, very early on, all throughout school, I was always getting into all the theater stuff and everything else. But I always had this love of film. I always loved it. I just didn't know it was possible. And I guess you love Broadway and stuff, but you kind of don't know, like, as a kid and growing up, you're like, how do you get into that though?
Yeah.
And even being
I
in New
think just
Jersey, I was like, I don't know how to start.
well, I think one thing that happens to a lot of people too is that, like, I guess, like, in comparison to Broadway, if you're an actor and the only job out there is Broadway, you feel like, oh, man, it's there's no way they're gonna pick me. But once you actually, like, get involved into a local scene, kind of realize that, like, wow, there's like 50 to 60 jobs a year. They're not getting Broadway attention, but they're paying a fraction of what Broadway does, and it's getting me experience so that I could eventually maybe get to Broadway one day. You turn it kind of into a lifestyle rather than a job that you're constantly trying to get, like, interviews and like acceptance from. You know what I mean? You turn it more into a little bit of a lifestyle where you do some side things, and you're still an actor as your primary thing and in your mind, but you still do like a side hustle to help kind of make the money to alleviate you not making that Broadway money yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's so about the hustle, and it's not just about jumping in. I mean, you hear the stories about, you're like, I came and I just went to Hollywood, and within 2 weeks I fell into this amazing, you know, big
you
Hollywood
have? I've
film,
never
and
heard
I
of that
became
ever.
famous. Never heard that. You're like, and I slept in my car for 6 months and I drove 70 hours, and you're like, what? I mean, that's amazing. And I'd love that. But a ton of other people, though, you start small and you just hustle and you work. And I mean, there are amazing successful actors who just literally are successful. Like, they're those people that you see them everywhere. Like, you don't know their name, but you see them as like extras or small bits in
They're
shows.
someone's favorite
That's
actor.
just as amazing.
Do
Yeah.
you feel that so, like, I think there's a you've got to have a passion for obviously what you're doing, right? And I think the people that, there's a group of people that want to be, let's say, an actress or be in entertainment or whatever, but the effort that goes into, like, even starting to become part of a professional scene in, like, upstate New York, takes a lot of those little projects that maybe are maybe even you even look back and are like, oh, I can't believe I did that stupid, little thing or whatever. But you learned a bunch of stuff by doing that, that stupid little project for free, or that
Definitely know
you're
the feeling.
embarrassed of or whatever.
100%. I mean, I'm 100%. I have things that I'm like, please God, I'll pay you money to like own this, to like hide the film so no one can ever
Take it
search
off
for
the
it or find
internet.
it.
That's what your
We all
first
have
mill is
those
going
things.
to, right?
Hmm?
That's what your first million that you make is going to,
Oh
taking
my
all the shit
God,
off the internet that you wish
100%.
didn't
It's gonna
exist.
be like, I made nothing off this film. I had to go back and take care of my past. No, it's true. And I feel like I've heard things that have also made me more appreciative from people outside of this, or people who are here but like live in New York City. And recently someone goes, but it's so much easier to get films made there than it is like in New York City. If you love it
Yeah,
and you want to do it, you can make it. In the
true.
same way that I've heard from someone else who lived here and then went to LA, and they're telling me, like, okay, well, by the time if you want to go, you're going to be so far beyond a bunch of the people who just show up with nothing and are like, I want to be an actor, I'm going to make it in Hollywood. And some people do, but I wanted to take the approach of becoming a big fish in a small pond. And then hopefully one day, even though it's still growing though, but I'm like, I want to outgrow it, and I want to just keep growing and move myself to a different market and continue growing. But I think that there's a lot of merit and value to um, just being here and being able to still build up your resume and still being able to do good quality work, so you have a foundation if you want to move to a different hub.
And that obviously takes a lot of I don't know, trial and error, but also I think that to be on a set, especially if you're not getting, A-list celebrity style money, right? Where you're not in a trailer. A lot of times you're just sitting in maybe your own car with the heat on, especially in Buffalo or upstate New York, right? Most of the winter when you're filming
Right.
stuff, you're sitting somewhere where there's some sort of heat pumping out, which could be your car. Sometimes you're doing scenes where you have to pretend it's warm out and it's freezing out. It is more than the desire, I think, in order to sit through that and deal with that, the effort that it takes to be a part of it. I think you've got to have something driving you to do that, and that might be the love for it. But do you also have And I asked you that question before about like what made you decide that you could go for it in upstate New York and in Rochester and Buffalo, right? And get to the point you're at now. Like you've got to have some sort of something to your personality that makes you, I don't want to say hopeful, but it might be hope, but like a cup half full.
Yeah, I think
Optimist.
I mean, it's obvious. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously hard because every actor in the freaking world will be like, you will hear no way more than you will ever hear yes. And that's true. And obviously, it's a smaller pool here. So I feel like I don't even know how many times I hear no more than here. You know what I mean? I still feel like you get no's, but you get more yeses. There are more opportunities or less people going for those opportunities. However, the main thing is like, you have to believe in yourself. I know it's the most cliche thing, but you have to grind, you have to work, but you have to believe that you're going to make it. Like you have to manifest that shit. You can't just be like, well, I'm okay or whatever. Nah, because you have to convince others though that you're worth it. You have to convince other people like, I'm worth your time, I'm worth your money, I'm worth you thinking about me for future projects. And if you don't believe in you and what you can bring to something, I don't know why anybody else should or would. And yeah, I just feel like I don't know, I do have a belief in, thank you. I do have a belief in myself where like, will have self-confidence issues and other things, but I always have to be confident in the fact that this is what I was born to do. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I'll work to be better at for the rest of my life. And I'm worth the time. I'm worth the look. And I want to bring these things to life. I want to show these different characters and emotions and world experiences. And it sounds stupid, but I do think it makes a difference. And I want to make a difference in that way. I think media is so powerful. Right. So you kind of have to, no matter what. It's just you have to have the self-belief that like, if I'm seen at the right time in the right place by the right people, I'm going to make it. But the fame and the fortune and stuff can't be the focus, because that's not, to me, it's an art.
Yeah, because I don't think it would sustain you to where you get to a point where you're, in let's say a giant movie somewhere, to do all the stuff it takes to get up to that point. There has to be something else that's driving you, that brings you joy while you're doing it. Because if it was for the money, I mean, a lot of the projects that you do, especially in the beginning, are either free or they're paid so little that it doesn't even matter that you're getting paid for some of them. Yeah. And then it's slowly, like step by step, as with anything, you kind of build up to to bigger and bigger things and more and more professional stuff. So but what you were talking about with believing in yourself, I think that's what I'm trying to get to the heart of. So there's a lot of people that will stop themselves from even making the attempt, and because it's Women's Awareness Month, and because you I believe are a woman, Melodie, correct?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know, I was like delayed there. I'm like, wait, I had to think about it. Yes.
Right. I know I phrased the question wrong. But I think that sometimes, and I don't know if it's different for men or for women, because obviously I don't have the experience of being a woman, but where you have to, like, the phrase, you have to fake it till you make it, right? Where sometimes you go into things, and from my experiences, I've had to do this as well, where you need to pretend as though you are confident enough to be doing and the thing that you are about to embark upon, or you need to imbue the feeling of confidence that you don't actually have about your own ability or talent, right? So that you get the opportunity, so that you can prove to others and to yourself that you are capable of doing the thing that you're going for. And I think that I'm going to try and finish the question I'm actually trying to phrase. So like there are individuals and there are young women out there maybe that are thinking, well, that's something that I can't get into, or I'm in this small town, or I'm not in LA, or I'm not good enough to do that, or I don't have formal acting training, or I don't have this or that, like something that's preventing them from taking the leap into, let me just try it, and I can fail, and I'm okay if I fail at it, but then what if I actually succeed at it. Like
That's
what?
it.
Yo, fear
What
of
if you
success is a
succeed?
thing.
What if you succeed? And yeah, success is a personal thing. I think people look success in the wrong way, as to like, well, I have to be making this much money, or I have to be in these major Hollywood films to be successful. But I think if you're happy and you're doing what you love and you can make a decent living at it, you're being successful. And you don't have to have formal training. I don't think, I mean, of course you should always work on your crafts. Like, I absolutely believe, like, amazing if you did do that, amazing if you take the classes and work at it, but you can start from absolutely nothing and make whatever you want. I feel like
Did
I
you
started
have any
from
formal
nothing.
training as
No,
like,
not
because you
really.
said you started when you were young. Did you get
Yeah,
any formal training back then?
not a lot. I mean, obviously it was more just school and then taking like theater classes and stuff like that. I did some like stuff like Westminster in New Jersey, like I did some like programs that way, but I don't know, not it's what I would consider super like professional, big, masterclass training. And I want to continue to do stuff, but I didn't take that path of like going and getting a degree for it. And
Do you
I think that that's okay. I think that's amazing if you did, but I think it's amazing if you didn't too. And I think what you mentioned, Patrick, about faking it till you make it, I saw something recently that really affected me. And it's not fake it till you make it, it's face it till you make it. And I think you just have to face it. You have to do it. How are you going to, I don't want to be 80 looking back, sitting in a rocking chair saying, I didn't go for my dream. I didn't do what's going to make me happy. Um, if you can fail at anything, so why not fail at what you love? Um, Rick Mossy has said, try, fail, try again, fail better. And I love that sentiment because I want to keep facing it and failing and facing it and failing, and
Well,
eventually I'll make it.
but here's the thing. I don't think you're actually. So I think there's something, because I said it too. I said the fail thing, right? And I'm gonna wait till my webcam comes back on
But
here.
failing
But
isn't what I
so
think everyone thinks, like failure is failure. I don't look at it that way,
right, and that's
in
what I'm
that kind of
saying. I
negative
think I
way.
think you actually see the small successes as successes versus viewing them as not what you wanted. Like you can
It's a
look at,
lesson,
yeah, like so for
way to grow.
instance, you could be looking at, you have a loaf of bread on the table or whatever, right? And then you could be looking at someone that has, a 10-course meal, and you could be looking at that 10-course meal and say, why don't I have that, and not be thankful for the little loaf of bread that you have in front of you. Or you can be thankful for the loaf of bread and see how much you have in front of you versus, let's say, someone else, and be thankful. And I think what it takes to be to continue going maybe is to have that outlook on life, like to be thankful for the, like I was saying before. I think the unpaid gigs or the little paid gigs, like you're so happy to be on a set, probably, because I know that feeling of
Yeah,
like just being on stage and having a microphone duct taped to
It's therapeutic.
coat rack, you know what I mean,
yeah.
and being happy to be there because there's three old ladies listening to me play music. Like there's something that, like a gratefulness, that brings the joy um, rather than the thing that you're doing necessarily. So I wonder where that comes from, because in order to get to where you are now, you have to have that gratefulness, and that's what
Yeah.
people, I think, see too. Where do you think that comes from? Does that come from experience, like having these little wins, or do you think that was something maybe that your parents gave to you, or something you had inherently?
I'm sure it's a mix. Obviously, my values and the core of who I am was, built by my parents and my family and what they gave me. And then just life experience and struggling and having traumas and different things happen to you. I think you just learn and grow, and you learn to be grateful for every little thing you have. Um, Especially, with experiences I've had health scares and things where I was like, well, I might die. And that was kind of what changed it for me, was I went through some difficult shit, and I was like, dude, I could die tomorrow. I could, whatever, and I won't have just gone for what's going to make me happy now. Like, why hold back? Why do that?
How
And
old how old were you when that was the case?
um
I won't
I
get
had
into
some
what it
hard shit
was like.
happen when I was a teenager. So it was around like the high school kind of years.
Okay.
Um, it's the beginning of college. So it was like the high schoolers. I would say it was probably like the darkest kind of time of my life, where shit really hit the fan, and physical things that ended up affecting mental health. And so I have so much appreciation and respect for people who are dealing with mental health issues as well. Not to completely segue, but and just that it doesn't matter, like you can work through any of that stuff. And I think it's super cool, as a side note, that the stigma and stuff has kind of gone away over time, that people are being more open about these things, so everyone can feel like, okay, you're not alone in that. Like, people have all had different things happen to them and had horrible experiences, or tons of people have anxiety and shit now, that's okay. But I I think you have to be grateful for everything you have and understand that everyone has to start somewhere. You have to start from the bottom or whatever. And so, yeah, I did not mind at all coming here and kind of paying your dues and doing student films or doing things for free or whatever, because you're still getting something out of it. It's not just like you're giving them of yourself and getting nothing in return. You're getting the experience, the growth. You might be getting footage. You can get anything from it. You can take whatever you want to take from it, I think.
I find it really interesting too that you went to a moment in your life that was the darkness or the darkest, you said,
Mm-hmm.
to explain why you're grateful and hopeful, because I think that's also kind of where it comes from, is these challenges that come up in your life, and the times, and it's hard when you're a kid or you're a teenager because you haven't had enough dark times to realize that on the other side of that is strength. It's like equating it to like weight training, right? Like the weight's heavy to get up, but if you consistently keep adding a little bit more weight and a little bit more weight to what you're lifting, your muscles get bigger and you get stronger and whatever, right? And I think that life and people that find joy in life realize that through those things that seem as though they're a struggle, is where there's the most amount of joy. Because once you get through that little bit of like, the struggle at the beginning of it, there's this like immense amount of I don't want to call it happiness, but like meaningfulness.
Relief.
Yeah, like something,
Absolutely.
you know.
There is. And I think, um, obviously most people notice a lot of artists in whatever form. Um, a lot of times they're weird people. They're fucked up people. They're people who've experienced a lot of bad or just interesting, strange shit in their lives. Um, and I find that artists, obviously, you have to use yourself. Like, you're digging into your soul and everything that's in you. And so the well has to be deep. And I think that the well gets deeper through trauma, through struggle, through dealing with mental health or whatever it is that people deal with. Um, and I just feel like I have this kind of motto about not having regrets and feeling like things all end up happening for a reason. Um, so yeah, even if horrible shit happened, like I wouldn't would it suck to go through it again? Yes, but I wouldn't go back and change it, because I wouldn't be where I am. And even though I'm not exactly where I want to be yet, I'm grateful for where I'm at, and I know I'm going to get where I'm going. So I think you got to understand that they helped you grow as a person, and they'll help you grow as an artist, because I wouldn't have all these things to pull upon and draw upon to do these characters and to do these things if I didn't have all the bullshit, you know?
That's what I've talked about that on the show too. Like when I opened up, Biz is gonna know this. When I opened up my bar, Biz, for the
Oh my
first time.
God, stop. I actually thought you weren't going to bring it up.
Oh, it's coming. My age is coming up too. But so, but when I opened up the bar, like I used to work in a bunch of fast food places and all that sort of thing, and I hated it. And then when I opened up my own, food place, my own bar, restaurant, like all the things that I learned by doing the job that I hated came in so handy when I needed to do that creative endeavor. It was like lessons that I didn't really want to learn at the time, but gave me such an advantage. When I did open up, that it helped me to not fail at a restaurant. Restaurants are difficult businesses to be in.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering too, because you said it was like your darkest you know, that you had some times that were a struggle and were rough, and then like what made you see, I guess, or gave you the first glimmer of like,
Hang on, before you go
yeah,
out of this topic, because I feel like it's a good segue out of it you're about to do. I want to ask, or I want to comment, I guess, is that like when you came or when you said about like going through certain traumas or going through certain things give you different emotions to pull from. I feel like most people, like you said, that are like artists, they are kind of like weird, but I feel like they've also seen or been through, I guess, things that are like so normal but so traumatic at the same time. You know what I mean? Like I'm fully healthy and okay, but what I went through a couple of years ago, like I literally since that instance, I can cry on command now, which helps in our position. You know what I mean? Like I can literally like muster up enough feeling on command to produce tears. And it's not like before I used to kind of like try to train myself to do it because I always thought like, oh, I'll be an actor, I'll be a filmmaker, this will be a useful thing. So I used to try to get myself to do it, but it was like a very forced look and a very forced everything about it. And now, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I would trade not being able to cry on cue to not have gone through that trauma if that was my only takeaway. It's not, but I think that like for instance, like if you watch your parents go through a brutal divorce and
Yeah.
you grow up to be an actor and you get cast in a film like Marriage Story,
Mm.
I'm sure that like as painful as it may be, you've probably made some level of peace with it that you do now draw this phenomenal character that wins you an Oscar, you know what I mean,
Yes.
or what have you. But you know what I mean. It's I think that the trauma definitely helps it helps that the trauma can do something like fuel your passion if it can do nothing else after what it's done to your life, not your life per se, but anyone who goes through trauma,
Yeah.
if you can turn it into art and that becomes an appropriate outlet, or you can find the silver lining or kind of the love in, well, this happened but now this is what's going on because of it. I think that's great. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Absolutely. I
the
think it's a
thing.
way to heal. It's a way to reframe your trauma or your life experiences in
For
whatever
sure.
capacity that they are, especially if they're negative. I I think that, yeah, exactly what you're saying is that's why, art and all this is so important and such an amazing and healthy way to heal or to just express yourself or to deal with anything. Um, but that's exactly it. I do feel like you find, again, to bring back being grateful, I feel like you find a level of being grateful for any experience you have as soon as you use it. Because to me, I feel like being an actor, you have to be authentic and genuine, and you have to bring yourself into it, at least for me. Maybe other people can do it differently. But to me, I have to take pieces of me into every role. Otherwise, anyone could do it. Anyone would do it the same way. It's a lot about you as a person. And yeah, I find exactly for like crying and things like that, you have to use your own memories, your own experiences, and all of that to really draw it forward. And I think to make people believe it. And I love that idea of like exactly if your parents were divorced and then being able to use that for something. Um, that's why I just feel like the more life experience and the more you have,
well,
like I said, the deeper your well.
and you brought up something earlier about the, like the stigma around like mental health issues and things like that. I think what the point that I was making before about you have a loaf of bread in front of you and then someone else is eating, a 12-course meal, and to look at that, um, you're always going to find unhappiness when your frame of thought is, why is my predicament or my experience not like that, like the expectation that you have of what the situation should be versus the way that it is, and actually looking at what's actually there. Because if you frame it in a way that, well, why don't I have a 12-course meal, I just have this measly piece of bread, you're always going to be miserable. If you see, I had this delicious piece of sourdough bread that this baker, there's like a way of looking at it that is different. And I think to a certain extent, obviously you're going to have suffering that's beyond your control and that you can't really just reframe to, to make you feel happy about it necessarily. But what you were saying before about, stigmatization, I think that when you are younger and when you're in your teenage years, especially now because of things like Facebook and social media, when you're looking at other people's lives, like back in the day, before social media and all that stuff, you would just look to, I don't know, the popular girl in in your class, or the popular, I don't know if that's really a thing, but a trope in high school
What's the
movies,
thing?
like the
I think you go
football
after
guy.
like music
Hold on,
video
what
and
what
artists too.
yeah,
Yeah.
one second, but so like the quarterback, right, or whatever it is, and I think that now it's so enforced that all these people are living this glorious life, and you're not, and you're comparing yourselves to these, your thing, this fake image that everyone is putting out of, let's say, their life, especially in high school and that sort of thing, and you feel as though. You feel as though you are different than everyone else, and I think what artists and what you're touching on, you when you start to experience a certain amount of suffering, especially in your teenage heads, and you come out of it, you come to the understanding that, well, one, I want to say you're not weird. Everyone kind of feels that way, right? At some point in their life, and everyone goes through things like that as a human being. It's like part of our friggin' existence. I shake my fist at God every day for this damn human existence. But everyone's experiencing it. Everyone's going through it, and I think the trick to it is realizing that on the other side of that is a level of strength. Like, by going through that, you come out on the other side better. And if you can at the end of that look back and say, I'm not thankful necessarily that I went through it, but I'm thankful for the experience that taught me the lessons that I've now learned from having gone through that experience, that make me stronger and better able to deal with the world ahead of me, and probably make me more successful because I went through those things, such as like the acting reference and that sort of thing that you came up. So I guess my question that I was going to ask before was, what do you think brought you to the like, I'm grateful instead of resentful? Like, let me move
That's
forward.
ironic, actually, because I have this major fear that, like, anyone close to me in my life knows. I have this thing about resentment. I have this fear of resentment. I have this huge fear of being resented and of being resentful. And I think that's because I was for a while. I did experience that. And I experienced that even in that period of time I'm talking about, where I was going through a hard time and I was young and stupid, and I would take it out on the people that I loved and the people who were around me, because, or I would leaned on them in a toxic way or whatever. And later on, you realize that resentment grew from that. It's like, I could resent you for not giving me what I need, but you could never give me what I need because, it doesn't work that way. And they resent you for those things. And it just became a big fear to me, because I just feel like resentment is just so toxic and negative to anyone. It's never going to be helpful for anyone. You're never going to move forward if you feel that way. And I don't think, though, that everything is about being grateful. Like, again, I like how you phrased it, that you don't have to be grateful that these things happen to you, because horrible things happened, and you shouldn't feel like, well, thank you, whoever's up there, for making me experience this. No. I think the only thing that you can do is to say, I'm glad that I have these tools in my box. I'm glad that I have these skills or this level of understanding or whatever from these experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's kind of the only way to get through. Sometimes it's your way to survive and thrive, is to try to, again, reframe it in that way. And I think that it's okay. It's so okay to not be grateful all the time. It's so okay to look at, the bread and the 12-course meals you're talking about, and be disheartened by it sometimes or whatever. As someone with anxiety and depression, I will always, even though I keep growing and trying to find better coping mechanisms and healthier ways of doing things, I still go through episodes. I still go through hard times and good times. And even recently, I went through one, and you're sitting in it and you can't see it. And you're like, why is this my life? Or why do I just have this? And it's okay sometimes. That's okay. I don't think there should any be looking down on, like, well, you need to just be grateful. You need to just understand that you have bread and some people don't. I don't like that view either. But eventually, you come out of it, and then you can see
do you
that
think
you do have something.
Yeah. Do you think so? What I find is that I'm I'm in agreement that like what you're saying there, like I'm not always grateful of everything I have. Sometimes I'm like, God damn it, like why the fuck do I have to do this right now, or deal with this situation right now, or whatever the case may be. But I think that I find solace in the repetitive, like the what am I trying to say? The discipline of something. So like repeatedly, like let's say you don't get a bunch of auditions for, months, but you continually keep sending out, sending out your resume, sending out reels or whatever. What is that called when you send out you said it earlier, like a video.
Yeah, I mean, hmm.
Like an audition, I guess an audition.
Yeah, like a video
I mean,
audition.
yeah, it depends. Like, because you could do send reels. You do send audition like self tapes or audition tapes, or
So
depends what they're
like,
asking for. It could
I
be a
don't.
resume. It could be.
I find like the discipline of just continuing to do it with the trust that at some point something will happen if you just continue to, to chop away, I guess, at the block or whatever. And
Yeah,
continue
you got to keep going.
and I think that's what people, like you said, hustle earlier. I think there's like these memes about hustling and work ethic and that sort of thing. And I don't think it's necessarily the work ethic, like you have to work yourself to death. I think
No.
it's the trust that if you continue to have discipline and do things repeatedly, eventually you're chipping away at the block and you're going to get to some result from doing that. And you need to look at that honestly and change your approach if you're not, you're not
Yeah.
doing it accurately or whatever. And I think to get through those difficult times, having that there has been the best, the best thing for me anyway, to get through
Definitely.
that kind of
You
bullshit.
can't give up on it. And I think that, yeah, eventually you'll get somewhere, and it's hard. It can be so hard, especially like this past year for all of us, but especially as
Yeah.
artists too, like when you're not having work coming up and stuff, where you feel like, oh my God, I had all this momentum going and then it screeched to a halt and now I got to start, steps back, or I've had those feelings, or being like, when am I going to get work again? And it's hard to handle emotions and feelings when as an artist, like I express myself through that. I handle everything in my life through that. So when you don't have it, it's very difficult. And it's hard sometimes to feel like, oh my God, I'm too old. Like I'm running out of time for the industry, or, why can't this happen now? Why haven't I moved to LA already or whatever? And sometimes then I kind of got to check myself and understand that my journey isn't everyone else's journey. And it's not that everyone else is ahead of me. They have a different journey than me. And that's okay. And it's going to happen for me in the time it's supposed to happen for me. And you just got to keep working. You got to keep just doing what's healthy for you, whether that's taking a break, whether that's working your ass off, do what's healthy for you. And just, you got to keep believing that shit's going to happen. Not that it's going to fall into your lap. You got to work for it. But
like we've talked about before, if you get success too early, you don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? You become jaded, you become lazy, you become ungrateful. You know what I mean? A lot of those things manifest when you get success too early, or you don't really have to work. Like you get that overnight success, like you mentioned earlier. A lot of those things tend to happen with those people because, I mean, you know what I mean? If you peak at 22 years old, you get your ideal life at 22 years old. What is 50? You know what I mean? Whereas if you kind of struggle through your 20s and 30s and you feel like, a lot of those feelings, like you were saying, that most anxious and depressed people feel, that like I'm never going to achieve these dreams and things like that. If at 35 you're feeling that way, I mean, provided you live till 80 and you get your dream life at 50, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's all about perspective.
I think you find it in the work. I don't think there's an end destination to it. I think that you have to find where you
have to find the joy in the work now.
Yeah,
I agree with that too. Patrick, for sure.
I think it's the opposite of like what people are doing. People are looking for it there, but it's like finding
it's happening right now.
That's the skill, right? Like
and you're killing yourself for a future and stuff, and it's like live in the moment at the same point.
The boulevard of broken dreams, right?
You may overturn in a golf cart on a raceway biz.
It wasn't a golf cart.
I know, so I was like,
sweet love of God.
But so beyond that, and I like getting into that because I find like personalities and the people that end up succeeding at things very similar in what their approach is, and like I like to know what what kind of drives people to not become resentful and just give up on stuff that they love. And I think that that finding those coping skills and knowing what to do when those things come up is important for people, and to know that like everyone kind of feels that feeling of like I'm just faking it right now, or I'm not, I don't know, it's not faking it like we were talking about, but you know,
Facing
finding,
it.
yeah, like facing what you got in front of you. And um I want to I want to say that like if because there's people out there, especially last year, it was tough for people, and I think it set a lot of people back from what they were doing, and some people had a lot of momentum and were doing things like that. um
What
you know,
happened
we're
last year? What are you talking about now?
What?
right. No, but
What?
I mean it's difficult, and I find myself included, like doing, you know, I find myself sometimes going through the motions of doing the work, right, without feeling like, yes, this is going to turn out great and this is going to be successful. So I think that knowing that people like Melody that have you know, a 6-part, I keep wanting to say something, a 6-part series on Amazon, you know, streaming services, has also had those experiences. Not only have you had those experiences, but it's those experiences that have potentially led you to the point where you feel like you have the tools necessary to, you know, to become successful in what you're doing. So um, I don't know if that I
Yeah,
just
I feel like, thank you. And yeah, and I feel like there's so much to come, and I'm excited about other things, projects that are done that haven't been released yet, or things that I'm going to work on. I just know that everything I'm doing is a step in the direction of the life that I want. And to touch on, you know, women, particularly in the industry, I think it's so important. And um, I've definitely experienced some bullshit, you know, being a woman in the industry, and the differences of how we're treated. Sometimes it's extremely frustrating feeling like I have to fight for the respect that a man would just be given on a set, in any way, whether it's directing, acting in any way. I've been in those experiences where people have been inappropriate with you. You know, a director or someone else might be inappropriate, and um, having that moment of like, I always understood like the women in Hollywood who didn't come forward for a long time, you know, about things that happened to them. But and I understood, but I didn't have like that firm empathy of having experienced it. You know what I mean? Like you can have empathy, but you get a different kind when you experience it. And I didn't experience anything necessarily to that extent, but even just the little bits that I did, you have an empathy of understanding like, this is disgusting, but I totally understand why you wouldn't want to come forward and say anything to call this out, because especially if you're fledgling and you're growing in your career, and like, I don't want to be blacklisted. I don't want to
yeah.
cause issues. I don't want to anything. And I mean, it's fucked. Like it's totally fucked. And so I'm so excited though about the direction that we're going with the world, and you know, the Me Too era and Time's Up, all of it. I think it's incredible, and I think we're taking steps in the right direction. Um, but it's hard to hear and experience, and I do experience it still, and I'm sure that I will into the future, of just, yeah, really needing to demand respect, or even different things about how you're treated differently. um, and I hope that that continues to change. I hope that more women continue to take on different roles, like directing, things like that. I think, you know, the ratio of men to women is very off, and um, so I think we should all try and support like women in those roles and doing things behind the camera and
Well,
behind the scenes as
let me
well.
ask you this, Melody. Do you think that the inequity of the of women in those roles, like, do you feel as though like women don't feel like they are empowered to take on those roles? Like, what do you think is the driving force behind the inequity there?
Um,
Do you think they're
well, I think that it's a system that's been made by men to keep women from those things. I mean, things all started back when, you know, women couldn't freaking vote. Women were like property of their husbands, you know, the bullshit that happened back then, even the Salem witch trials, like it goes way, 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 way back. And these systems were all started and created. And even in Hollywood and acting, I mean, things were all started way back when there wasn't equality for men and women.
do you
So
feel like
you have to
like
break
Not
the
only that, but I
system.
mean, well, I think also that like who wants to go into a group you're ostracized from? You know what I mean? If you're the only
Yeah.
woman coming into a workplace and you're going to be sexually harassed, I mean, what major incentive is it to tell your friends to come work here? You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's part of it,
Yes.
is that
And if
the
it's society
predetermined
too.
society kind of already set the bar. I just brought this up to Lauren, my wife, recently, that like when someone meets a guy and they're super successful, someone wants to pick their brain. You're such a success. You're such this. You're such that. You're so phenomenal. But when they meet a woman that's that way, it's either their husband or their parents that made them that way. Like, they're not just a great person on their own. It's like, well, your parents raised you right. That's why. Or it's, you know, it's someone else's credit rather than the person right in front of you. When if it was a dude, you'd give all credit to them right then and there, and they're so phenomenal. Let me pick your brain. How can I be successful like you? But if it's a woman, again, it's like society kind of sets that standard that it's, you know what I mean? Like, not
No,
necessarily
they
men
do for
over
sure.
everything, but it's,
No, but a lot of things. It's just framed differently in the same way that a man can, um, you know, there's just so many different things where you look at it of like a woman can write about her exes and she's, talked about and the press is like, oh my God, and you're whining and complaining and you're like a slut and you're dating all these people. But then men can do the same thing and it's like, oh yeah, like he's a player, that's so cool. Men can be straightforward and firm, but you know, men can act, but women can only react. It's that kind of a thing where I feel like if a dude, a director was being disrespected on set and people weren't listening, you're going to get loud or you're going to get whatever you need to get people to listen. And then it's like, oh, they're being firm, they're being serious, we got to pay attention.
well,
But
they
if a
have to,
woman
they
does
have
it,
to be
it's usually like,
serious
oh,
though.
she's being a bitch, like she's
Yeah.
being moody. And it's looked at differently. And I think that things slowly change over time, but it's hard, exactly as you're saying, society, if you're born and raised to be told that like, well, there are no women in this industry, or it's just not done, it's a lot harder to be like, okay, well, where do I start, or how do I get into this if it's not accepted? If people aren't going to want to hire you or won't hire you or whatever, how do you start? How do
And
you change?
I feel like there would be such a small margin of people that are like, well, I want to prove them wrong. They do exist,
Yes.
obviously, but I think those exist a lot more than just, I really love film. I'd love to get into film without being sexually harassed or limited because of my limited knowledge in the field, even though, you know what I mean? Like, it, there's a lot of limitations I feel like that women, especially young women in the film industry, have to face. And I'm lucky enough that locally in the industry, there are a lot of women filmmakers. I've even been on a set where me and one other man were the only other guys on set. Like, the entire film was pretty much
That's
all women
amazing.
except for me and with this other person. And there's been, I think, maybe one set I've been on that no women have been on at all, but it's pretty diverse in this area as far as it goes. However, with that being said, with how diverse it is, I've seen like sexism to a level that I can't even describe it. You know what I mean? Like, firsthand, like straight up on set, to the point that like I'll go up and say something, like not in the moment because I feel like there is like a respect issue of the hierarchy, but like I will say something and it makes the person like not like me, or I hear them like talk shit about me like behind the
Yes. Well,
scenes later, and I'm like, oh cool, that's cool, even though that you were an asshole and you were called out
right.
on it.
It's so obvious, even in simple things about you can be on set and someone could be complimenting, the male actors of like, your skill and your talent level and all that stuff. And then you can go to the woman and be like, and you are beautiful and you are
Yeah,
just lovely. And it's
and to
like,
what
hold. I'm sorry. No. Don't be talking to me about like how I look. Like, I'm here to do a job. And it's just, even those, it's very clear the difference in moments like that. And again, I do think things are moving in the right direction, but all of that stuff takes time and it takes
Yeah.
individual growth.
I think that
I
it's what you're saying is kind of like it's a almost a cultural thing where the way that 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 the interactions happen are somewhat like it's like watching the roles that are acceptable in certain situations and what the framing is for certain situations. People have an idea of what it should be. What do you feel like lets young women or allows young women to change that framing, to think like, oh yeah, it could be a a director or a producer, or because are we allowed to talk about what? And I keep looking to the side. I'm sorry, because my iPad that lets me kind of look at the camera just powered off for some reason. So, but I know that you've got a project coming up that you're not acting in, but you're doing something else. Are you allowed to talk about that yet, or no?
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I am, well, depending on the project you're on, but yes, I've
Okay.
done other roles, and I think that, to pop back to what you were saying as about women is you can be a boss ass bitch, okay? You can do whatever the hell you want to do, and you can step into whatever role you want to step into. It doesn't matter where you start. If you want to start somewhere, you can go wherever. I've done acting, I've done directing, I've done writing, I've done stunts on a big film, and that was pretty sick. And there's a first time for everything, and I just think if you want to do it. Learn what you can. Do whatever it takes to try and educate yourself, and just go for it and do it and try it. There will be someone out there somewhere eventually who will take you on to try it. And you just got to keep working at it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't, click the first time, keep doing it. So yes, I mean, coming up, we're filming a feature film called Turn Up the Night, and I am the director on it. I am acting in it, but I'm not like the main actor or anything. I am acting in it though. But yeah, I'm directing it, and
That's awesome.
I'm super excited about it. And I think it's important to talk about it and to be proud of what I'm doing and what I will do, and tell people to look out, because I'm going to be a kick-ass director. I don't just act, and
I believe
I
it.
know that I'm going to keep going and doing those things and keep growing and learning from them. But
So
yeah, we're filming that this summer.
yeah, so what kind of drives you to like to 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 want to take on the role like behind the camera too? Because I find that like, so for instance, I have someone we had on, Matt, I forget how I say his name now. Gordon.
Ordinary.
I think Biz got it right.
Ordinary.
So he was a performer for a while, like a musician on stage, and he found just like as he got older, he wanted more and more to kind of be behind the scenes and almost like sculpting the direction of a artistic vision more so than necessarily being on. And I know that you obviously you like acting too, but do you feel like you want to have more control over the direction of the entire like end vision? Is that your
Yes,
your
definitely. I feel like directing and other things like that, I mean, always interested me. Even, in high school or middle school or whatever, I had opportunities to direct things. And that was an eye-opening experience where I was like, damn, I love this too, not just the acting, but dealing with actors or other people. And yeah, having a say in what happens in like the shape of what it turns out to be, the emotion. And then obviously when I got into the film industry up here, my appreciation for everyone behind the scenes just grew a millionfold. Um, it's incredible what they do. I feel like their job's so much harder than mine, and I'd love to learn all. I just always want to ask questions when it's appropriate and learn, and understand all of the roles and what people do. It's incredible, and I wish that there was more credit given to every piece, not just the actors whose face that you see doing these things. And I always loved writing, so I always loved creating, obviously, the world and the characters and whatnot. Um, and yeah, so I always wanted the opportunity to direct, and I feel like this was the perfect opportunity because I had been involved from the beginning with Rick Mossy, who wrote it and created it. And I just had such a passion and love for this project in particular. I was cast from the beginning as an actor in it, and then it just grew to be something that I felt so strongly about, and we had the same vision for, and I just knew what I wanted for it. And it kind of just slowly turned into me directing it.
what's I guess for people that don't know, because I think director and producer can kind of get like mixed up in people's minds that aren't in the film industry. Can you give me like a brief kind of what's the difference between, let's say, a director and a producer?
I mean, for as a director, I feel like I have more the creative control. You usually have a little bit more direct, I guess, of a say of like the casting or the actors. It's more of the director is the one who's interacting on set, with everyone. You're the one dealing, you need to have a good relationship with the DP, the director of photography. and directly with the actors. I think, you have to have the vision of what you want it to be, but you really have to bring it to life in terms of on set, really dealing with the actors and being like, okay, this is what we're looking for from everyone. The producer, I'm not going to explain it well, but I feel like the producers do a shit ton of work a lot behind the scenes. Do a shit ton of work behind the scenes.
That's a pretty accurate description, though, I think, Melody.
The pretty general thing of it.
Everything pretty much.
And yeah, so obviously,
you want me to give you the textbook definitions of them when you're done?
Yes, can you, please?
Yeah, definitely.
Biz, if you got them up there.
Yeah. So a producer is a key coordinator for production. They're involved in many, if not all, of the aspects of the production from start to finish. They often have a hand in the production process, creative, financial, and administrative. And then directors control of all creative aspects of the film. They are the primary person responsible for the storytelling, creative decisions, and acting of the film.
All right, excellent.
Yes.
So what have you found? Like, what have you found?
You were dead on, dude.
What have you found the most challenging, like going to directing people? Because it's almost like you're like a boss, like you're leading a
Guys,
team.
I directed my first short. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's coming out this week. I'm so serious.
Did you? Well, I think the difficult part is obviously not disappointing anyone to begin with. Like, you gotta have a strong vision of what it is that you want. And I think it's finding the right way of dealing with individuals as well, because everyone's different. And you have to connect with each actor. I mean, each person on set too, but you have to find a level of being respectful and being respected in return. And finding a way of communicating with each actor in their own way of, you can't just tell someone like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. You have to kind of keep working. Like, if you're not getting what you want, you have to understand for that specific actor person, like, okay, how can I reframe this? How can I explain to them what it is or pull something out of them? So it's nice when you know people, you have a connection with them, because then it's easier to be like, okay, maybe put it into a story of like, okay, imagine like this is what's going on, and this, draw from this, or like, this is kind of more of what I need from you than this. It's hard to, because you have to have a gentle touch in some way, I think, to not make someone feel like shit about what they're doing, because it's not like it's wrong, it's just not what you're looking for.
Right.
And then also being able to be stern enough or forward enough to push to get what you want. And I don't want to, because you don't want to settle too. You don't want to be like, right. Oh, okay, that was
all
was
right,
fine.
We'll
just take
even
that
though.
take.
Yeah. So it's
worked with directors like that. It's terrible.
It's
I'm gonna be honest
interesting
with you.
that you talk about that too, because that gets into another. I love psychological stuff, so I'm gonna always bring up something psychological about these like real world scenarios that you talk about. So I think that's it's an art that comes to, let's say, leadership is communication and being able to communicate. And I think people sometimes have a misunderstanding of what communication means, right? When you have an idea, like you have a vision of what you're trying to do as a director, right? And you need an actor to potentially do this and perform it in a way that will then convey back to everyone the emotion or the thing you're looking for them to do. I think that skill is one of the most valuable skills to have in life, is to be able to communicate what's in your head, get it out of your mouth and into someone else's head, and have them accurately understand what you're saying or what you're trying to convey, and then in return have them actually act in a way that is in response or in congruence with what your I guess your motive or what you would expect to have happen from what
Patrick,
communication is. But wait. So Biz,
amazing way to phrase
so
it.
But like even in a relationship, right? And when I say I think there's a misinterpretation of what communication is like, so when you're in a relationship with, let's say, your significant other or whatever, or even in a friendship, or you're having a conversation, and I see this all the time on like Facebook and that sort of thing now, but even in interpersonal, in person discussions that people have, is that they feel as though they've said something, so they make a statement, and a lot of times this is with political stuff too. They're making a statement that says that is worded in a certain way, and what they say is, this is my statement. The other person, the way they are interpreting what you're saying is the way that they are interpreting it. it is not that person's responsibility to understand what you are saying in the way you are saying it. It is you as the communicator's responsibility to communicate your point or your vision in a way that the person listening to you then understands what you actually mean. And so a lot of times when people get into, I think, disagreements where they can't reach a consensus, not necessarily a consensus, but where they feel like the other person isn't understanding them, they're blaming the other person for not understanding what they're saying or not understanding what they're feeling or whatever the case is. When in fact, it's the way that you're communicating. If the way that you say, I love you to your partner, right, is by
Isn't their
kicking
love
them,
language.
yeah, is by kicking them in the face over and over again, right? Then and them not understanding that, because that's every time you kick them in the face, they're like, why the fuck are you kicking me in my face? Kissing me in my face, that might be different, but kicking me in my face. Why are you kicking me in the face? And then you saying, well, why don't you understand that that means I love you, right? It's not their fault. It's your fault for not figuring out a way to communicate that. And
absolutely.
And what you're saying with, especially when it comes to directing, I think is the ultimate clinical,
my job is to be a translator.
Yeah, like a clinical way, like a clinical trial of how to go about communicating like emotion, because you not only need to communicate what your vision is of the scene that you're seeing, and you're doing it to multiple people. I think it's amazing, actually, to get them to interact in a way that then conveys your vision back to you, is pretty unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it has to read on screen. The whole point is to evoke emotion. I want it to be believable. I want to make people feel something. And yeah, I feel like my job is to be a translator. You can't just be a director and be like, well, this is how I communicate. Why don't you get it? You don't understand it. In the same way that, as you were saying, using as example, love languages is so important, where you can be doing everything that you think you possibly can to make someone understand that you love them, but it could mean almost nothing to them because that's not how they understand or accept or feel love.
Yeah.
And that's why, in relationships, it's not going to work unless you learn someone's love language. The same way in communicating. And I think communication and comprehension go hand in hand. And I think comprehension is almost important, if not more important. Because again, you can have amazing communication, which is important, but again, you can keep communicating and you can keep telling someone over and over the same way, okay, this is what I'm looking for. But if they can't comprehend it, it doesn't matter. You have to rephrase it. You have to figure out a way that works for them.
And I feel like the best
really
directors, they can approach kind of the person with I understand that you have a level of comprehension of a fifth grader, so I'm going to approach it like you're a fifth grader so that you get what I'm saying. Or you have the comprehension of an astrophysicist. I need to approach this in a different way. Like the best directors really identify that communication, they can have the best communication, or they can explain it 6 different ways. But if they don't give it to the person with the right level of comprehension package for the person that's going to be comprehending it, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of doing a little bit extra of the work. They're doing 60 of the what normally would be 50%.
And I agree with that, right? But I think that the way you're phrasing it a little bit, Biz, is a little bit off. So like, for instance, you can have, because I've talked to scientists too, right? So they have a level, like an educational, how do you put it? Educational level of language that they can understand at, right? Or a technical aspect that they can understand at. But when it comes to communicating certain things, like the way that they're able to receive those is very different than other people. And it doesn't matter.
Of course, that's what I was saying.
It's not necessarily, it's the same gist of it, but I don't think it's necessarily a level, because that can be taken in some people's minds. They can think, well, this person isn't understanding because they're not at the the level that I'm at, when that may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, the comprehension level.
No, I get what you mean, though. Like, not levels like you're below or above. So yeah. I get what you meant, is that, yeah, I don't
just to
see it as levels of like you're below or under, or like you're stupid. I just think that it's but you have to speak to people on different levels of understanding of if for some people I could simply be like, okay, so this, I really need you to be more angry, not more like sad. For other people, I might have to be like, okay, what's a time in your life where you felt this? Can you explain that to me? What were you experiencing at that time? Okay, can you pull from that? Or I have to be like, okay, or you go to someone with something that you experienced. You're like, okay, this is what I think the character is thinking in this moment. What do you think they're thinking? How can we make this, or think about that? Like, there's just, you have to come, that's why I think by levels, it's different approaches. It's different.
And what's interesting about that as well is like the communication part of it. I think that women in general have a an inherent I don't know if I want to say empathy, but an inherent, for the most part, I mean, I'm generalizing a lot, but have an inherent understanding of that part of communication. I think more
It's
so
emotional
than
intelligence
some
a
guys.
lot.
Like a lot of guys can be very stubborn in the way, like they'll say the same thing over and over and over and expect the other person to understand, and then will almost think like that person is stupid for not understanding me. I think women in general have a softer view on that and can navigate the communication a little bit better. I think just because it's it's a more innate strength of women to do that. And so I think positions of leadership are I want to say, like I was about to say, destined for women to be the leaders in leadership, but like have ideal innate qualities that make them ideal for leadership when it's cultivated on a cultural level, like
Yeah,
when it's
I do
encouraged.
think that, not to generalize, because I never want to generalize anything, but yeah, I do feel like many women have a natural, usually have a different level of like emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
or yeah, empathy. Like I myself find that I'm extremely, like, I am an empath, and I do take pride in my emotional intelligence. I'm not, smart in every way, but I do feel like that's somewhere I excel. And I feel like many women do. I feel like a lot of women can be very cool, calm, and collected in certain situations instead of jumping to anger. And that's why, yeah, I totally agree. I feel like I'm surprised, but not surprised that, because of society, but I hope someday soon that there are tons more women in power in all ways, because I don't like the idea that, like, well, women are too emotional. Bro, we have the emotional intelligence though to get our shit together and to keep it together and to understand. You have a deeper understanding or intelligence. I don't find that you're just over emotional or too sensitive about something.
yeah,
I think that's bullshit.
and that's
That's just,
for sure not what I'm saying. I'm kind of saying like
of
there's
course.
there's like a benefit. There's like I don't understand I don't understand people that feel that certain human beings should not be contributing to anything when it comes to the human race and as a whole, because there are unique strengths to everyone's, and it could be just from the experiences that they've had to have up until the point where they start contributing to society on a bigger level, like just being growing up a girl has these unique things that ultimately give you a skill set, like we were talking about before. You struggle through certain things that force you to have better skills in certain areas, right? That why would we not want that as a society, as a human race? Why would people? I find it unusual that people would try to exclude other points of view or other skill sets from being introduced into things like like leadership positions or that
No,
sort of thing,
absolutely. And that's
because it
why
can
I
only
think
make
that
things better.
things are growing though in the right direction. I hope that they
I agree.
continue, because I think
People
women are amazing,
stubborn.
incredible creatures, and I think that we deserve a seat at every single table,
And I
and
I
we'll take it.
100% agree. And I think it's moving that way. I know there's a lot of pessimism, and you're a hopeful person, Melody. So I'm glad that you keep saying that it's moving in the right directions, because I agree. I think in the United States especially, we have this weird system of like this push and pull. Like we sometimes will go forward a couple of steps and then we'll go back, as
Yeah.
we'll go forward 5 steps and then we'll go back 4. But and those little increments just like we were talking about with success, you make these little things over time slowly chip away at the rock. I think we're doing that on a cultural level, and things are getting better and more hopeful. And I think that like you said, we're moving in the right direction. And I think that I only see, and I have to feel this way because I have two kids too, that I only see us moving in a much more bright future for everyone involved. And I see signs and evidence of that. So I'm glad you came on. This was the most insightful discussion that we've had in a while. We went way deep into it. What are we doing on time here? 7:40. So what were we at?
I think we're pushing almost 2 hours, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to be respectful of your time, Melodie, and let's drop some links where people can find your stuff. Where can they go to see it? And we'll of course post links to all your, anything you got released now and wherever anyone can find your future projects. But if you want to just say it out loud, where people.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much all of my social media is my name, my first and last name. So anywhere. Yeah. You can just find it at MELODIEROEHRIG, just Melodie Roehrig. Obviously, like Instagram, IMDb, Facebook. I have Twitter, but I don't really use Twitter. But anywhere, you can Google me. It's just my name. And yeah, there should be a lot of stuff coming out.
Excellent.
Soon. Bottom feeders.
Amazon Web.
Amazon Prime. Diary of a Lunatic is on there. And then I would keep an eye out for Bottom Feeders. It's a feature film that should be coming out.
We wrapped that literally a year ago. Like,
well, we're all kind of part of that. So let's all pimp that. So I've got a song that's in there that's placed in there.
Oh, amazing!
You're acting.
Paolo mentions him by name. I think they say his name wrong, but they mention him by name in the radio scene.
Everyone always says my name wrong, so
that's incredible.
I know what you're feeling, really. But you're acting in it, yeah.
Yep. So I was one of the main four.
You're one of the leads,
yes. Yeah?
Yeah, I was one of the lead four, yeah.
That's right. So that should be, hopefully I would keep an eye out for that. That should be coming out. We will be filming Bottom Feeders this summer. So why am I saying bottom? We will be filming Turn Up the Night this summer. So keep an eye out. Send help. My brain is dying now. Turn Up the Night.
Yeah, we're on 2 hours.
The 80s hair band film is coming, is going to be coming soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I guess, the other few things I'm working on is Heartbreak Falls. I'm going to be filming that. It's a feature film, filming in Niagara Falls, that will be coming out at some point. And doing a mini series called a Grim mini series, Final Fracture. And we're in the middle of filming that.
Busy, Melodie.
Yeah.
Busy. Are you glad that things are like kind of easing up when you're able to get out and be a little bit more?
Yes. I mean, I'm still pretty strict with like COVID stuff until everyone gets vaccinated, but I'm very excited to be busy as hell now.
Yeah.
It's constantly like meetings and work popping up, but I have to be grateful because this is what I asked for. For a year, I was like, I'm not getting anything. I need something to happen. It's all happening now. So you guys should put your best foot forward and dive in and rock it. So.
I definitely feel like things are starting to open up and be more hopeful. So this is our hopeful message, because I think we were a little dark in the middle of the episode, Biz, too.
We had to get a little rough.
Yeah,
we
down
got
the rabbit hole.
We asked the tough questions on Infiltrate Radio podcast. So,
but Melodie, thank you so much for being on. I'm gonna binge that show, and everyone else should binge it if you've got Amazon Prime. And should don't. I was gonna say you should pirate it if not, but don't pirate it. Watch it on Amazon. Because I don't think
it's free on Amazon Prime.
Can you even pirate stuff nowadays? Biz?
Yeah, dude. You can literally get free copies of my book all over the internet. You know how pissed I am about this?
I like my computer. I don't want to destroy it with all that. Who knows what kind of viruses you download if you're pirating shit. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who subscribes to us, who downloads the episodes, who shares the stuff. Please go and check out Melodie's stuff. Subscribe to our stuff, share our stuff, and if you ever want to try this elderberry honey tonic, I'd say skip it. Because but
skip
I'll post,
the duff is great.
I'll post the link, and if you do buy it and you want to be adventurous, we'll get some pocket change. But it literally tastes like watered down like boysenberry syrup from like IHOP with
gonna give you the runs, dude.
With like weird, I don't know, like turmeric taste in it. It wasn't good at all. But Biz, anything else you want to drop? You got anything coming up that you want to?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, probably in the upcoming week, maybe 10 days at most, I should be releasing my director debut. It's a short film
Amazing.
called Left the Stove On. It's a goofy little funny thing that hopefully everyone can enjoy. I won't give too much away because again, it's a short. If I talk for more than I have already been speaking about it, it's going to give like too much away. So I thought we were going to do the news, so I have some interesting news stuff, but we kind of blew past that because we ran so long.
I don't want to keep Melody.
I mean, if you want to go for the news, go for the news, man.
Quick 3 headlines that one of them's kind of important. The other 2 have to do with, our theme here. First of them is that Holland, I doubt I'm saying that correctly, becomes the first ever Native American in the presidential cabinet. So some interesting stuff. You can read on that at Google News. Awesome. Looks like the Biden is planning for, I think, where was it? 100 million COVID-19 shots and 100 million stimulus checks within the next 10 days. Huh. So again, you can read the full article about that on the Google.com thing. I seem to have lost the other article I was going to mention. So
yeah, well, they are giving kind of the artificial date of, by July 4th, everyone should be able to have, barbecues without worry or whatever. So that's, I mean, I'm glad that there's a date. It kind of seems like it's very PR friendly, like giving the July 4th. America will be free on July 4th of COVID. It's kind of like bullshit a little bit.
I mean, it's also kind of like right in line with, like, they said it was going to be 18 months. Right at the 18-month mark.
Well, I think it's ideal. Like, it's a good leadership thing to say there is an end to all this kind of coming, and to have some hope. So at least that's in front of us too. At the end of all this nonsense will hopefully be there. And maybe the people that weren't washing their hands before all this, maybe this has finally finally caused them to start washing their hands after they leave the bathroom stalls.
And if you're sick, man, wear a mask.
I know. Can we keep
your germs are already all over your face? Let them get all over inside the mask. Let's continue the mask wearing beyond this.
Yes.
I do like it, especially in upstate New York. I enjoyed this winter being able to go out and having the mask on when it's cold out. You could put the mask on, and it was like, oh, my face isn't freezing and hurting when I go out.
And when you are outside, you have to pull it down. It provides a little bit like a scarf material, so it's
that's what I'm saying. Like,
it
keeps your face warm, especially if you got a beard. You don't get the little frozen icicles.
What's that like? What's it like?
I can't relate to that, but
I don't have a beard right now. I think I shaved it yesterday and the day before. I had a little bit going on, but all right. Anyway,
like Jamie from
that was the quickest news segment we've ever done.
Yeah,
there'll be, hopefully Patrick will edit some sound bites.
I don't know if I'm
in there, and it'll get more.
I'm gonna be lazy. We do have a new sponsor though, so keep an ear out for that. And I think Biz read the copy for that.
Is my commercial on this episode?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You guys probably already heard it. So
hopefully
I'm sorry.
I have the time to actually add that in there, because otherwise we'll be talking about something that isn't actually true. But we'll try and add that. And it's from our one of our former guests that were on, so Justin Rambo. So his program that he came out with. So
Lost and Found.
Yep. So we'll have that at the beginning or end of the episode, so you can listen to it if you want to rewind it, and you'll get discounts on that. So thank you everyone again for listening. Subscribe, share with your friends. I'm going to have to turn over to the screen here in a minute because my iPad is dead in front of me. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Melody, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Awesome talking to you, Patrick and Biz.
We appreciate
as always.
it. And I'm Patrick Joanne.
I'm Biz the Chance.
And thank you guys so much for listening to the show.
Infiltrate Radio.